I'm Holt Webb, and this is Vanishing America. I'll be traveling around the country for the next 2 to 5 years, documenting things in our country and our culture that may be gone within the next few generations. We're talking about everything from wildlife, wide open spaces, landscapes, swamps and wetlands. It could be anything, ways of life, the rancher, the cowboy. Trying to get a collection of images that show what America is all about before it's all gone forever.
The Vanishing America project combines education, exploration, conservation, and art to promote awareness about the culture and the country in which we live. During my travels, I write articles, I give presentations to schools, I exhibit my work at galleries, and I donate a portion of my image sales to conservation efforts around the country. I started life on the road by getting my home on wheels wrapped and getting it converted to run on used vegetable oil. I mean, after all, I can't be preaching about a vanishing America if I'm a contributor to the problem. I got the motorhome wrapped in one of my images of the Okefenokee Swamp, and behind it I pulled my 1994 Land Rover Defender. The Land Rover also runs on used vegetable oil. Shane Belensky at Rover Hybrids replaced the gas engine with a Cummins diesel and built me what amounts to a luxury tractor, and I take it everywhere. The used veggie oil is collected from restaurants as I travel. It's pumped into an onboard centrifuge tank where it's filtered and cleaned, and then it's pumped back into either the Defender or the motorhome for driving. And though I've traveled over 3,000 miles purely on veggie, it still puts a silly little grin on my face to be driving around for free. So why Vanishing America? What is actually vanishing? Well, the Vanishing America project is designed as a visual record to describe America as it stands today in this 21st century, barely 250 years old, but already depriving itself of its history.
I'm Jack Crizzy, and we're standing in the gym at the old industrial YMCA in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This building was built in 1929 as an example of Spanish Renaissance architecture, and this was the only swimming pool in the city. So all the different schools would come here to go swimming, and so I discovered life, diversity, people of different color. It was a wonderful and exciting time, and I fell in love with the building and never forgot it. We're standing in a gym right now, and it's really an interesting multi-function. What's so interesting is you've got a viewing area around the top. I'm standing in the middle of the basketball court. Behind you, over your right shoulder, is a performing stage. If you get up on the viewing area and look down, you'll also see there are volleyball courts. And then in the very middle of the gym floor are 4 1x2 brass plates. And if you weren't here then, you don't know what they're for now. Those brass plates was where we set up the boxing ring. They came up out of the floor, and that's where we all learned to fight. So you could do anything in this place, and hopefully as we restore this building, we'll be able to bring back a lot of those old applications.
Up until about 10 million years ago, horses and their ancestors roamed over 60% of the present-day continental United States. From that time until about 10,000 years ago, with their migration north into Canada, across the ice bridge into Russia, and south into Central and South America, their numbers here dwindled to just a few small scattered herds. We stayed relatively horseless until sometime around the 1500s, when horses were reintroduced to North America by the Spanish and the English. It is these horses and their descendants that gave life to the iconic roaming herds of the Wild West. But with man's encroachment on their territory through his self-proclaimed manifest destiny, the wild horse has been crowded into ever smaller parcels of land, and whenever an entity is forced into too small an area, whether that entity be man or beast, that area becomes overburdened and decimated, ultimately resulting in land that is devoid of sustenance for even the smallest band of creatures. We've seen it with cattle overgrazing as well as with human consumption. Too much stress on an ecosystem will cause that ecosystem to fail. And it's this stress on the horse's ecosystem, with man taking it over for farming and habitation, and horse populations too large for their remaining lands to support, that caused the federal government to step in and take measures to begin reducing their population. Thousands of undernourished and weak horses were removed from their herds and sent to processing plants for feed, cosmetics, and industrial supplies. Over time, the populations were culled even further to include perfectly healthy horses, partly as a means to reduce the stress on the land and partly to keep up with the increasing demand for horse-based products. As horse lovers began to recognize the plight of this vanishing icon, they began to foster these horses and set aside land of their own so that the wild Mustang could once again roam strong and free. Today, there are approximately 30,000 wild horses running free on government lands. And the federal government is doing its best to maintain that number with periodic roundups, adoptions, and the unfortunate destruction of unwanted animals. With increasing demand for the lands that these magnificent creatures occupy, one has to wonder, what will their future hold for them? If we protect them now, we won't be faced with the arduous duty of having to resurrect them in the future. Fernandina Beach, Florida is heralded as the birthplace of the modern shrimping industry. But with offshore corporate fishing and new shrimp farming methods, the portrait of the American shrimper and his legendary trawler is rapidly fading.
I'm Janie Thomas. My position is the Executive Director for the Shrimp Producers Association. At one time, it was taken for granted that our shrimping industry was always going to be in existence. The production is not nearly as great now as it was back then. And lots of people have gone out of the business because they just can't keep up with all the expense it takes.
I'm Michael Adams. I live in Yulee, Florida. I've been in the shrimping business basically all my life. My father was a first-generation shrimper in the state of Florida, originally from Kentucky. So I've been steadily shrimping in northern Florida waters since 1972. When I got out of the military, there was probably 400 shrimpers in the northern part of Florida, inland water shrimpers. There might be 15 now. Mainly because of the economy and the cost of operating a vessel in a business anymore. It drove most people out of the industry. Just a few diehards left in it. There's probably about 35 licenses, or special license, and they're grandfathered in. You lose the license, nobody gets another one. That was their design to eventually deplete the inland water shrimpers. It's money what makes the world go round, and when you have a lot of people moving to desirable areas, which is considered waterfront property and everything, they don't like to see people coming in and they call them outsiders or whatever, dragging up in front of their house and shrimping and things of this nature. But the main thing is probably the economic aspect of it, because like I stated earlier, the price of shrimp nowadays is less than what it was back in the 80s, the price that we're getting for the product. And everything else has increased. The price of fuel, boats, materials. When I first got into the business, I could get a net bill for about $250. 35 years later, it's cost me $2,500, $2,800 to have a net bill. So price of materials and cost have really gone up in the industry. When I was growing up, the city docks at Fernandina have anywhere between 100 and 120 vessels, shrimp vessels, tied up at the city docks at any given time. Now, the last time I went over and fueled up, there was probably 12 shrimp vessels tied up in the city of Fernandina. It's declined that much. Years ago, back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, shrimping was a very good way of making an income. It was, I know people that can make more money shrimping a good-sized vessel than it can make as a doctor. If they didn't do something to the shrimping industry in this area, that within 15 years, the only way you're going to see a shrimp boat was be a museum tied up to a dock, and you walk on and pay a fee to go to it. It's getting harder and harder for these guys to make an income, and the biggest impact that's killed our industry is imported and doing away with our wetlands and developing our wetlands. And what people don't realize is our wetlands is what produces not just shrimp, but it produces our small fish, our hatcheries. It keeps our water systems clean and filtered. And I know where there's marinas built right now that's built inside of ecosystems and everything, and you build a marina in there that and they destroy the ecosystem after a period of time. It's not an overnight thing. It's a slow decay of it, and if you're not paying attention, you won't realize that the decay's there until it's too late.
Alligators, snakes, mosquitoes, black water. That's what we think of when we hear the word swamp. Swamps and wetlands have always been on shaky ground, pun intended. They're blights on our landscape, and they get in the way of progress. They've been drained for farmland, polluted by storm and sewage runoff, divided by highways, and considered by most to be nothing more than wasteland with little or no use at all. But as it turns out, wetlands are vital not only to the wildlife that live there, but also to the quality of the water of the surrounding areas and the climate they help stabilize. Their impact reaches far beyond the moss and the trees and the murky water of the swamp. With literally thousands of different species of flora and fauna, some of the cleanest water in the world, despite its tea-like color, and primordial landscapes that take you back to the earliest days of the earth, what was once considered a wasteland is now admired as a wonderland. What this all boils down to is that America is changing faster than our culture and Mother Nature can keep up. And if we don't take the time to care for our history and the world around us, much of what we love about our country and our culture will be gone. So when you're out and about, even on your daily trek to drop off the kids at school, take a look at the world around you. I mean, really look at it. Was it always the way it is now? What do you miss that used to be there but is now gone? More importantly, what do you love about it now? Take special care of those places and things that stir your soul, because if you don't, they'll be gone before you know it. My goal is to photograph. My goal is to document things that I'll be doing interviews around the country, and what else? I'll be driving around in this ecological. Babs is an ecologically friendly motorhome. And I got an airplane. Overlooking Parkville Lake. We'll do that again. Cut. I haven't had enough cornbread today. My fuel level's a little low. Whatever it takes. So I'm going to hit the road. I don't have any idea where my next stop is.
Don't get that on tape. I hear a picture needs to be taken over there. I'm out here getting eaten up by skeeters. Hey, what town is this? So join me. We'll be coming back to you. I have no idea what to say during this part. I haven't worked that one out.